Hello there, and welcome back to the Agostinho Zinga Show, episode number 338, with me, your host, Agostinho Zinga. This is episode number 338. How you doing? How you feeling? Great, amazing. How am I? As you can tell, feeling good, feeling well. I haven't had a haircut just yet. I've been holding off on that. I think I'm going to allow myself to get shaved and trimmed up and lined up sometime at the end of the month. I just feel as if I haven't really earned it this month. I don't know. Maybe I'm not, maybe I'm just in my minority here, but I know a few dudes out there will feel me with that kind of sentiment. You kind of feel like you want to earn a haircut, right? You've had a good week. You've been well behaved. You've been keeping yourself out of the limelight. I don't know, you benched a certain amount of weight, you ran really quickly someplace, you beat somebody up, right? Those are the things that you kind of reward yourself with a haircut, so you can give yourself a bit of a bump, so that when you go out on a Saturday or Sunday night, you know what I mean, you can get a few admiring looks and whatnot. But in this situation that we're in at the moment, number one, what's the point of getting a haircut? And number two, where are these admiring looks meant to come from? No one's outdoors. No one is out there. So you're getting yourself trimmed up, you're getting yourself all nice and shaved just for yourself. And if there's one thing that boys don't do, we don't do none of that self delusion that girls do. You know, when girls are like, "Oh, I'm just going out with my friends. I'm just going to dance," and you're doing a club dancing all nice and cute, and a boy tries to approach them. "No, I'm just with my friends. I'm just dancing. I'm just happy with my friends. I don't want boys trying to get up all in my space." It's like, nah, we don't do none of that self delusion. We know when we're going out, we're going to kill. Right, we're going to hunt and kill. Right, that's what boys know when they go out. Girls can give themselves all this sort of fake, you know, moral sort of grandstanding. Oh, we're only here to support our friends. Like, no, you're not. Right? You're there to show out. You're there to show off. Just admit it. We're the same, but we don't do it unless there's a reason. So unless I'm going out somewhere, I think that's probably something that you can spot quite clearly if you're seeing. That's probably maybe from like a girl's point of view. If you want to spot somebody that you should be wary of, if you want to spot a guy you should be worried about, right, in terms of like being in a relationship with, be worried about the dude that's always getting a haircut, because for sure he's definitely trying to impress someone outside of your home or outside of your relationship. If your guy's getting a haircut every weekend, you know, he's trying to keep himself trim, he's re-upping on the flipping Tom Ford fragrances, he's going to Zara and buying the latest flipping jeans with pockets on the knees and whatnot, and zips on the side and whatnot, then he's definitely playing around somewhere. So be wary, be very, very, very wary. So yeah, man, I'm not rewarding myself with any sort of haircut or trim at the moment because I don't know. There's no point. I did get a few supplies, you know. I did kind of buy some few beauty things. I got like some Vaseline cocoa butter. I've got some man and tail shampoo that I'm going to be using. You know, recommendations from Wiz Khalifa and that. You know, keep that stuff going on. But apart from that, just gonna keep it organic, man. So if you're looking forward to seeing me a bit shaved, then you have to wait until the end of the month. And if you're not worried and you don't care, I just wasted 5 minutes of your time explaining my haircut regime. It is what it is. But yeah, apart from that, nothing else has been going on. I guess the best news happening at the moment to kind of get into stuff regarding the show. Actually, before we get into that, if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe, leave me a comment down below, let me know about the show, let me know what you think. If you listen via the podcast app, of course, leave me a 5-star review and share it with your friends. That's all I ask for. So yeah, the best news to come out of this week has been the announcement that gyms are going to be reopening on 25th of July. I'm so happy. I'm so excited. Or in the UK, anyway, at least that's where I'm reporting from. I'm not sure about you guys, but the lack of gyms has been affecting me the same way the lack of nightclubs has, right? Because these are, I guess, everything that you sort of associate with your personality, everything that you sort of kind of attached yourself to as a form of your everything that was sort of kind of a basis of how you kind of navigated through life has been essentially taken away from you, right? Whether it's bars, whether it's museums, galleries, all that stuff, right? It's all gone. It's all out of the window. So when this virus keeps ramping up, it gets annoying, right? Because you're not doing anything. And then when the virus is kind of steadying down, but the government aren't announcing anything, it's also thoroughly annoying because you're like, hey, the numbers are decreasing. It's getting better out there. Why can't you allow us to do some of the stuff that we think is fun? So they didn't reintroduce the gyms when I thought they would. When the pubs reopened, I guess they didn't want too many things open at the same time. They didn't want any sort of bottleneck. They're probably worried about the spike in numbers going up again because from all the evidence that we've seen so far, COVID does seem to spread a lot quicker in places where there's a high concentration of people, high amount of people shouting, screaming, water droplets, all that sort of stuff. It can affect how COVID spreads, and I guess gyms are a right place for it. But with some adjustments, in terms of how they lay it out and all that sort of stuff, it should be okay. And now they've given the good news that we're gonna have those gyms and team sports open and outdoor gigs are gonna be returning throughout the month of July. And this is from BBC, kind of detailing some of the news. It says as follows. It says leisure facilities and beauty services in England will be allowed to reopen. The government has announced pools, gyms, nail bars and tattooists will be able to open their doors again, and team sports starting with cricket will be allowed to resume, which is bloody amazing. It says announcing the changes at a briefing at number 10, Culture Secretary Oliver Dowden urged people to work out to help out, which is a weird slogan, but hey, we'll take it. So the outdoor performances will also be able to resume with limited audiences. It came as the UK reported that deaths of a further 85 people who tested positive for coronavirus, taking a total number of deaths to 44,602. That is no number to really brag about in it. That's the only issue with this COVID stuff, right? The numbers, man. You become so desensitized to it. It's so large, like 44,000 people dying of something they wouldn't have died from prior. It's just insane. Well, we don't really know that just yet, right? I think there's a way to calculate that, right? Because there's a certain amount of people that die per year, so there's a way to kind of calculate the ones that have died purely because of COVID. I guess it's pretty hard to sort of kind of ascertain, but still, man, that number is gruesome. And we just kind of, like how I opened the top of the show, we're in this place where most of us are sort of like looking out for ourselves. We're not really bothered about what everyone else is doing. We sort of just want to look after our own mental health, our own finances, our own job prospects, right? Our own family. We just want things to kind of get back to some sort of level of normality so we can get back to those things. But you have no idea what's happening in other people's homes. You have no idea how much, savagery and brutalness is sort of like rampaging through families where have been, had positive test with somebody, with a member of their family. We don't know what it's doing there, but we're just here none the wiser, innit? It's really, really mad, man. Anyway, it continues. It says, Mr. Dowden said all the data was continuing to move in the right direction despite the reopening of pubs and restaurants last weekend. He said normal life was slowly returning, and that was an important milestone for the country's performers and artists who had been waiting in the wings since March. He says, I'm really urging people to get out there and to play their part. He says, buy the tickets for outdoor plays, musical recitals, and get to your local gallery and support your local businesses. That is definitely the hardest part of this whole issue, in it. They can reopen what they want. They can essentially allow the economy to restart in some way, shape, or form, but trying to get people back out again, trying to get people back into crowded spaces, crowded arenas, crowded concert halls, fields, whatever it may be, is going to be so difficult, especially because it seems like, as well, from what I've seen with the businesses that are failing, it seems like every business sector sort of relies on a core base of people coming out all the time, right? Regular festival goers, regular theater goers, regular restaurant visitors and stuff, right? You rely on them to kind of keep your place running, but they also rely on this crowd of people who are just they don't make much noise, they don't leave reviews online, they don't really comment on social media, they just go to places. That kind of general kind of punter population, and I think they're the ones that are most hesitant about going out. I think the people who have kind of, like I said prior, the people like myself who have sort of formed your identity based on the hobbies that you do, right? We're definitely gonna make some sort of effort to get back doing those things that we enjoy, right? Whether it's going to a nightclub or if it's going to a theater, we're gonna do them. But the businesses can't survive with just us alone. They need the general punters also to contribute to their bottom dollar. But those general punters who just will just go to some place because it just thinks it looks cool because it's open, they're the ones that are the ones you really have to try and convince, because they are not convinced by the data. They're probably still worried about being in packed spaces. They think maybe we're reopening too quickly. So it's really, really interesting to see what the government's going to do in terms of getting those people outside the door, because that's going to be the hardest group to convince, 100%. Or even people with kids maybe as well, right? With young children, it might be like, I'm not too sure about that one. You know what I mean? So I don't know what they're gonna do, man. I'm really interested to see how that sort of develops, but I'm just happy about the gyms reopening, man. I'm really happy. It says continues as outdoor pools and theatres were open from Saturday 11th of July. That's great if you can swim. I can't, so F that. It continues that grassroots sports will be able to return from this coming weekend, beginning with cricket. That's also good. I'm assuming, you know, there's a lot of people that play recreational cricket, a lot of people that play recreational football too, Sunday league type stuff. They're going to need to come back sooner rather than later. Beauticians and tattooists, bars and tanning salons often close. Contact services can reopen. I agree with that one. That's amazing. 30th of July. Of course, tattooists, there's been a couple of people who've sort of essentially closed down the tattoo studios and moved back home. Beauticians have done the same sort of thing too. They've been suffering, where some of them have been able to do like private sort of like one-to-one session, one-to-one sort of appointments, but also, you know, you're gonna have to make a bit of an outlay in terms of making sure people get tested. So the ability to those people to open is gonna be good as well. Indoor gyms and swimming pools are the most important thing for me, opening for the 25th of July, man. I'm so looking forward to that. I actually went to see exactly what it would actually look like quickly as well. Let me see what it's gonna look like, because I think for the most part they're gonna have staggered entry. You're gonna be able to clock in. You're gonna have to book your time sort of ahead of time, right? So that they can aggregate how many people are going to be in each gym at any given occasion. But I'm really looking forward to it, man. UK gyms reopen. Let me see what that looks like, right? What I think will happen next? How should we do? How? What you need to know about gyms reopening. Stays open. Oh, this guy does a really good one actually. This guy called George, what's his name?
George. Hey, how you doing, guys? Koji here, Twinkle.
Guji, that's how you pronounce his name, I guess. Whereas he's got a really good video that sort of details what it looks gonna look like. Where can I find it? Here it is. Let's load it for him a little bit.
We just try to make every.
Where's it going? Let's see what it looks like
outside, as the weather is still good.
Let's see this one. This one says exactly what they can look like.
I'm going to discuss exact people in the evenings and more spread out the day. So, of course, expect reduced capacity in your eyes.
This guy's just gonna be talking for the rest of the time. It doesn't matter. You know what a gym looks like, innit? We'll just skip ahead on that one for now. Bish bosh. So, next on the list, what else do we have here? I wanted to speak about that was of interest for you. I thought this was funny, and I'm simply too old. Have you ever got? Are you sometimes reminded of your age? Sometimes I tend to. That was for the longest period of my life. I was one of these people that was fighting against my age, right? Constantly sort of berating anybody that used that term, oh, I'm too old, or constantly berating anybody that was, ready to go home too early on a night out. Like, what are you doing? Get back out there, have another drink, shot. Do you know what I mean? I'm that kind of dude for the longest period of time, and then eventually you get to a point where your body just stops doing the things that you used to do pretty easily, right? It just decides, nope, we're not doing that. We're going to bed. We're sleeping. We're going home. We're tired. We're yawning. We're dropping stuff. We're losing things, right? Your body just says, I'm not doing it anymore. And it happens sometimes when you see stuff on the interwebs, right? When you're like a sensible person, right, and you see somebody arguing or fighting in some sort of shopping center, you're like, what's wrong with these people? Why are they acting like animals, right? And you're like, oh, I'm too old, I don't understand this. Then you see some kids, running around doing these stupid pranks. You're like, oh, why are they doing these nonsense things? And then you realize, oh wow, I'm too old. And then for the final nail in the coffin, right, for lack of a better term, you see these kids on TikTok doing all these dances and these comedy sketches, quote unquote, right? And you're like, wow, I'm definitely too old, because it just doesn't make any sense. And this video this lady shared on Twitter is a really, really good example. Let me get up on here. It's from this woman called Taylor Lorenz, who's been getting herself in a bit of hot bother on the social media webs because she's essentially been going to war with. There's this weird Twitter war between VCs and tech journalists, where I guess the venture capitalist guys are essentially berating the journalists for going after people within their field, not giving them any due process, not having any empathy, doing takedown pieces, tearing down their legacy, damaging their career prospects, with little to no recourse for them on their side. And then journalists are pointing out to the VCs that the VCs operate with a sort of like tyrannical rule, and the only way to implement any checks and balances or to have any kind of way to fight back at them is for their employees to feel like they have an anonymous channel that they can kind of feed information to via the employee that's been disgruntled to the journalist. It's a really weird debate happening on Twitter. Again, it's things that people don't really care about in the real world, but it's interesting to see. But she posted this really interesting clip regarding what was going on TikTok, and I thought it was really illuminating as to like how old I am and how detached I am from what's actually going on in society. And TikTok is one of the biggest apps out there in the moment in terms of social media. It's absolutely crushing Instagram. So there's these. So this is a guy called James Charles, right? A well-known makeup artist who I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, and he's sort of transitioned. It feels like a little bit across to the whole TikTok thing, which makes sense considering his age. I'm sure he's under 21 years old, considering what he looks like too. He's got that kind of ambiguous, cute guy girl look kind of going on, right? That a lot of those kind of teeny boppy sort of like handsome looking boys on TikTok have. They have that kind of ability to sort of like blend the lines. They have really cute face, hairless features, chiseled chins and stuff, and of course he's got the benefit of being able to apply makeup on his face to make himself look even better. But still, he's pretty charismatic, pretty funny. So the whole pivot to makeup to TikTok makes sense. But then he's kind of evolved or stepped up his game a little bit more by doing these sort of weird dancey challenges things, where I'm not sure if it's a real song. I'm not sure if it's like a remix. I'm not sure if it's a diss track. But whatever it is, it's bizarre, right? To say the least. Just from my point of view, being an old fuddy dad, they got these guys that are dancing and singing inside of a tennis court somewhere. They've got a microphone placed outside, so they're obeying the social distancing. One singing one verse, the other singing another, sort of like kind of like I don't know what that kind of way of singing. Buddha. What was that example? I don't know what I was gonna say there, but one person singing one verse, the other singing another verse, and then out of the shot, they've got these two other guys dancing. They look like they're choreographed, but they're not really. They're sort of like, I don't know, mirroring what the person's saying that they are lined up behind. But it's just really, really bizarre, and just another encapsulation of just how far detached I am from what's going on in the actual real world. So, enjoy.
Didn't even notice, no punches left to roll with. You got to keep me focused, you wanted say so.
And obviously... And obviously they've got that thing going on that a lot of white people do, where when they want to like have like a bit of soul in their voice, when they want to add a bit of licorice, a bit of caramel, a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of hazelnut to their voice, they do that sort of like right. They sort of like it's like what people would imagine Joss Stone to sound like, but she can actually sing, right? So, and they kind of like close their eyes, put their hand to the side, and sort of like vibrate their esophagus, so to add some sort of depth to their voice. It's just really interesting. Again, it's possible. Don't get me wrong; they can both sing me under the table. As you can hear by the sound of my voice, when I'm talking, I don't sound any different to how I sound like when I'm talking when I try and sing. So you just know I'm not gonna be able to sing you a genuine song as you go to bed.
It's nice to know, yeah, let's do it again. How we did it in a one night stand. Boy, I wanna be more
And I don't know what's worse. Is it James Charles' outfit, right? Those little short shorts with the little, turtleneck long sleeve tucked into them. With that, I'm assuming is some sort of like what's that thing that ballerinas wear where it kind of goes under your crotch? I'm assuming that's what it is. Or is it the guys at the back who are like, because it's a weird kind of archetype in it of a man, in it, right? They kind of look like jocks, but they're not. So I wonder what that is. I wonder if that's happening in like US schools where there's this friction between. Yeah, I'd imagine there's a friction between the kind of jock the kind of jock that watches Barstool Sports, and the kind of jock that fancies that girl Charlie D'Amelio, that main one, right? That one that's really popular on TikTok that everyone talks about, the dark-haired brunette girl. There's probably a real tension between those two, right? I'm assuming the one that watches Barstool Sports and the kind of person, the kind of girl, the kind of guy that would go out with a Charlie D'Amelio, because they're slightly different. They obviously both can play sports. I think they're like visually deceptive because they might look a bit waspy and a little bit emasculate, but they can fight, they can wrestle, they can play football, basketball, they can dunk and jump and stuff and run really fast. But then they're kind of boys that when they gather around in a circle, they're always talking about how some girl broke their heart, and they complain about relationships and stuff, or whatever it may be, right? They sometimes get flat out drunk with like a FaZe Clan, all those kind of dudes, I'd imagine, right? But then there's this other dude who's really, really hyper masculine and watches just Barstool Sports, and who's kind of like sees those guys and kind of, you know, says the F word about them, whatever, and just is generally quite disrespectful. I wonder if that's a thing, or I wonder if the kids nowadays have kind of, there's a new amalgamation of those two archetypes, that jock and that Charlie D'Amelio ex-boyfriend guy. They both basically mold into one person, and that's where you get that whole kind of like, you know, forward mop guy. Because remember before, everyone had that weird haircut that was all kind of like moppy, shaved on the side and moppy on the outside. Now most dudes have that kind of front mop, that front sort of like big hitter, that little massive curly mass there. Maybe that's what's going on, but it's just so weird to see that, like the kind of thing that when I was in school for, you get teased. Remember when you were in school and girls were like doing dances in the playground? It just annoy you. Sometimes obviously it would annoy you because you just wanted to kiss them, right? And they were not paying any attention, they were doing their dances. But sometimes just annoying to everything in your fiber of your being to see these girls doing these silly choreographed Spice Girls dances, and they're doing them terribly. So you just get the ball and you just boo it at them, right? Just to kind of disturb their kind of flow, just for the sake of it, because you thought it was funny to show off to your friends. But now those same boys are doing the same dances. It's a scary world.
Been a friend to you. Feel like I did too much. Feel like I did too much. Let's get naughty, yeah. Let's get naughty, yeah.
Is James Charles the most? Does James Charles? James Charles has to be one of the only people of his age group. It's, you know, openly gay people of his age group that just has no ability to dance. Have you ever seen someone like that under 21 that's just incapable of dancing, has no rhythm, nothing whatsoever? Are you seeing his body roll? Are you seeing his body roll of his?
Feel like I did too much. Let's get
What is that? What is that body roll? Someone explain.
Let's feel like I did too much. I did too much. Like I did too much.
James Charles cannot dance. Why? Imagine being gay, his age, a multi-millionaire, and having all these. Because you know when it happened when happened when I was younger. The difficulty in dancing was that we didn't have. Especially when I was in school. Think about it, right? We didn't have smartphones, so there was no way to sort of like get a clip of somebody dancing easily on your phone. So don't get me wrong. Towards the end, when sort of when I guess when free mobile came around and people started having, you know, phones that could view videos, you had people sending you MP4 files of some player called Ronaldinho playing in PSG, and you're like, wow, who's this guy? That's when I started to realize people had videos, right? And sometimes people had like, you know, a couple of porn clips here and there, but for the most part, it was quite difficult to get video clips on your mobile devices, let alone on your computer or laptops, because, you know, you didn't have one because they're too expensive. So you had to only consume dancing or music on the television or when you go into school. And sometimes most schools, they had like a, you know, they had like some sort of they had like a firewall that prevented you from going on any other site apart from the ones that are permitted. So in order to learn how to dance, you kind of had to just try and remember what you saw and then sort of interpret it. And then when you went to a party, you see someone doing it better than you, and then you copy them, and it's sort of like you're copying the copy of the copy of the copy. Whereas kids nowadays have the ability to like look at some amazing kid somewhere in the middle of Paris dancing really well and just be able to rewind it and just like at home just, you know, copy it step by step, like boom 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 boom. Like there's literally no excuse to not be able to two-step, to not be able to do any sort of like cringy social media dance. You should be able to do it. You should be able to do it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you should be able to do the same proficiency as these flipping amazing kids who have all these effects and they wear face masks and they pirouette on their toes. No, but you should be able to do most of the dances, just because, you know, if you have enough time and you just, you know, you're in lockdown, you just look at your phone and just repeat the steps. But James Charles, man, like, he's shockingly bad at dancing, isn't it? Like, he can't, like, and he has that, you know, when someone can't dance, they always have that face, like, I know I'm terrible, but at least I'm having fun. He's got that face, right? Look, I'm smiling, all right? I'm having a good time, which you can't blame him for, but
Let's get naughty, yeah. Let's get naughty, yeah. One bad bitch and she do.
and that's the classic, like, I can't dance skank as well, right? That's sort of like, you know, the two fingers, like, right? That kind of like, you know, we your index and your thumb up, right? That's sort of like dun 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 dun. I done. It's like, and the guys at the back with their lavender and teal colored hoodies on.
Do it, I say so. 2 big 40s and a big ass Draco. 3 more millions and you ask how my day goes. Poured up before another full 180. Is it crazy?
Jim Charles with a massive bat here, and this other guy pointing to him. Like, so that's why I'm not sure what's happening. So he's doing the back up, isn't fat enough, and then the guy behind him is like sort of like, "Eesh, that's a big old bumper." So he's doing the kind of like backing off thing, and then I guess the one in the front is doing the crazy. It's so confusing. I'm just confused. I really am confused.
When I'm going back, is it fast enough? You can twerk while in a split. You're rocking up them tips. Your body rocking, your booty popping. I'm proud to call you my bitch. I wanna put you.
And is that did he say the BITC word? Oh, I'm not sure that had to be use profanities on TikTok, but the best thing he did there was probably the little booty pop thing, right? It kind of reminded me of that. You remember that there's that meme of Dua Lipa, right, doing that whole like when she's at that stage show, right? That's sort of like the classic, I don't know, dance school sort of trope that people can do. But his general moving of his body, like just dancing and rocking, is so off, isn't it? I'm surprised James Charles can't dance. I really am. That's the thing that's taking me back the most of this video. James Charles can't dance.
I'm proud to call you my bitch. I wanna put you in 7 positions for 70 minutes. You get it, babe.
Okay, cool.
You'll get a lot of your mind and I wanna easy to feel like it.
That is a madness. But again, he's a genius, isn't it? He's even got his little YouTube card there at the end to kind of get more videos of him. But wow, man. Wow. What a video. What an experience. So I guess if you want to see more, of course, go join James Charles at youtube.com/James Charles. Follow him on TikTok with the same name. But if ever there was a reminder of how old I am and how young I'm not, that was it. Bloody hell, these kids, man. These kids. Next on the list, we have I Love AFTV. Yeah, who doesn't love AFTV, innit, right? Who doesn't love AFTV? Who doesn't love AFTV? Fan channels get such a bad rap, right? They get, honestly, and maybe for me it's more so, I guess, for the in the UK for the most part, I guess, because the US has always had a pretty decent fan culture, right, where they've kind of embraced them. Again, not to go on about Barstool Sports, but you know, they've kind of embraced that sort of like social media shouty, passionate, you know, can't see anything that their team does wrong, sort of like passionate fan. They've kind of embraced that meme, and they've sort of like they sort of pushed it to the forefront, right? They have people calling in, tweeting questions, interactive shows, presenters who are pretty divisive and winding people up and stuff, like, you know, general stuff. But in the UK, for the longest time, it felt as if like the institutions like, I don't know, BT Sport, maybe prior, maybe not, maybe Sky Sports is probably the main proponent of it. They were sort of like so stiff, and really they had a stranglehold on how fans sort of like interacted with sports, right? How I took part in it. There wasn't much kind of like fan produced content in UK sports, in football for the most part. It was all kind of Sky Sports corporate blue suits with white t-shirt. No, dressed down. It was like a blue suit with a white shirt and brown shoes, right? That's their kind of dress down approach, or a shirt with no tie or something. There was never that kind of idea of like representing the everyday club, the everyday fan that goes to the stadium to watch their favorite team play, or the fan, just the fan, you know, the fan that follows the favorite player, wherever it may be, right? That person never got represented. So when the fan channels kind of came about, let's say in the late 2000s, I was a big fan of them, because I thought, regardless of how sometimes, you know, I think a lot of the people that are willing to go on camera and be shouty are the ones that probably, you know, whose opinions you won't probably take that much notice of, especially in the beginning. But I'm not a fan. I don't mind it, because I think that fan always has existed, and being able to put the camera in front of their faces isn't going to make it any worse, because we've always known that fan existed. Anytime you go to a pub or you go to watch a game in a stadium, you've heard that person that has the most asinine opinion about football speak and shout about things with such conviction. It makes you really, you know, wonder whether or not you are sane, or whether or not they are crazy. And then of course it evolved, and then we got to a point where you've got like full production kind of fan channels, you know, United Stand, Stratford Paddock, AFTV, whatever other teams have, right? They do really great stuff and they really do a great way of presenting fans and how they put them out and stuff. But one of the best things about fan channels is that if essentially they've kind of confirmed whatever we knew prior to fan channel's arrival. We always kind of had an assumption about different teams and their fan bases and how idiotic and how sometimes embarrassing they can be. I think for the most part, even though, you know, we're probably still in the stages of being a banter club, Manchester United, you can't deny that Arsenal probably have per capita or per individual they have to have the highest amount of wallads, right? Or absolute cringe supporters compared to any other club in the country. They must do. Maybe the only club that can kind of compete with them is deluded Newcastle fans or something, right? But I can't think of any other fan base that is so delusional, so entitled, so moany, so reactionary. That's a big thing. They're so reactionary. Like, they can go on a 5-game win streak, lose one game to a really good side, and suddenly the world is sort of caved in on them. And AFTV has done a good job of basically highlighting that nothing has changed in that regard. And this little clip here from AFTV after Jamie Vardy scores an equaliser against them, right? Again, Arsenal are facing Leicester City. They're not facing some, you know, they're not facing Aston Villa. They're not playing against Norwich, right? They're playing against a side that has aspirations of, you know, qualifying for the Champions League. They have a manager who some would argue is probably one of the best coaches in the league. They have a striker who's probably one of the best strikers in the league, if not the best striker in the league on current form. You have a team that just plays really well. A midfielder in James Maddison, who everyone's been kind of fawning over. So they're playing against a really good side. They go down to 10 men. They're holding on to a 1-0 victory. You know, if they get a draw, it's a bad result, don't get me wrong, but still cool things considered, considering they have to play against 10 men against a side that keeps the ball well. You'd think a 1-1 draw wouldn't be too bad, but look at how they react. Look at how mad they get at the whole issue, right? This is a little clip here from Twitter that I pulled up. Let's just play it for you guys now.
Damari's my guy, but you can fuck off right now, dog. You know what I'm saying? Go back and Leicester, man. You just cool now. Hey! Don't come with this shit again. Brendan Webster, McCarthy!
Cheating bomb. You're cheating scum. Cheating scum.
The TV thing.
Cheating scum. You see Ty saying cheating scum there in the back? No, obviously, because I'm assuming Ty is annoyed that Jamie Vardy was involved in some sort of, you know, fracas on the pitch and didn't get sent off. But it's just the overreaction of it. It's just comical, isn't it? The jumping about, the throwing of your hat on the floor. You're drawing 1-1 against a good side. You've been playing, what, let's say 20 minutes plus with 10 men against a side that keeps the ball pretty well. Again, this is Arsenal. The defense, you know, hasn't been pulling up any trees this entire season. What do you expect was going to happen?
Let it go off. I don't even want to fucking watch it no more.
Body.
Pussy, yo. Pussy, yo, the bull man. The bull man, this pussy.
You're cheap.
A bull man.
Referee.
A bull man.
You're cheap.
Beg tell me he's offside.
Oh, he's on.
No, he's off. His body's in front. He's off. Look at his body. Look at the body. He's off.
He's offside.
He's off. Where's VAR?
I love the football. We all do this, to be fair, though. I love the football delusion. You're trying to convince yourself with something, and you know that it's not going to change, but you're still shouting at the TV as if the referee can hear you. I fucking love sports so much.
Where's VAR? Where's VAR now? Where's VAR now?
They checked it already, innit?
No, they haven't.
No, they touched it.
He touched it.
D comes in like a good colleague. He touched it. Robbie's sitting there in the middle, trying to just keep everyone calm, making sure no cameras getting knocked, no one punches the wall. Kind of wonder. That's what I'm wondering too. This new room they've got, who's gonna be the first person to punch the wall and leave a hole in it? Who's going to be the first person? Because I'd imagine they're going to... Because I've again, taking the piss out of Arsenal fans, but I think as a neutral, I've quite enjoyed their watch-alongs where they all sit in one room and sort of comment on the game. I think it's pretty cool, especially in that sort of setting where they sort of like lay themselves out in a full, 4-3-3-4 formation. I wonder if they'll continue doing this once the games start going back to where, with fans being in stadiums. I would like to see some of that, maybe for... games like finals and stuff, Arsenal probably won't get into any final anytime soon. Easy little jab there, but that would be pretty cool to see. I quite like it. And again, a good example of this is that, or a good sort of like justification of why these guys are around. This is far more enjoyable to listen to in the background while you're watching a game. The only issue you have to try and sync it up. That's why I wonder who's going to be the first person to do. Who's going to be first person to do this. to somehow create an app or service that allows people to sort of sync up commentary on YouTube from fan cams and stuff with the stuff they're watching on TV and football. Is that a thing? Can you do that? Probably you can. I'm sure there must be an app or service out there doing it at the moment, but that would be a really cool option, I think, for some people, because who wants to listen to, you know, Martin Tyler spout his nonsense? You probably don't mind it, but for the most part, if you can get these guys shouting at the screen, you know, for the next 2 or 3 minutes about someone being offside, I'd much prefer it over Martin Tyler.
Touched it. It's inactive. What? Perez touches it. Watch when the ball gets to Perez.
Yes, he's offside. He's offside.
It's offside. Look, move. Put it off. There.
Yes, he's offside. He's offside.
It's offside. He's touched it. He's touched it. Watch the ball.
Yes, he's offside. Offside. It's off. Fucking.
And if you're wondering what VAR is, it's a visual assistant referee that my man Trips is threatening to go to their home and kill them, assault them, threaten them very aggressively, whatever it may be. He's really angry.
I'll find out where you live, my brother.
Finally,
It's offside. Everything, dog.
It's offside.
If you fuck me like this, yeah, I swear to God,
He's offside.
It's offside.
Touched his foot.
Come. Blood.
100% offside.
It's offside.
It's offside. There's no debate. He's touched the ball and he's offside. Get on with it. It's fucking done, VAR. Do your fucking job. He's offside.
He's fucking off!
Look, they're doing it
How
from
many
line.
times do you need to fucking see the cut?
They're doing it from
He's
where.
fucking off!
He's not offside there, but as soon as he touches it, he's offside.
Perez has touched it! Barney's off!
Offside.
You fucking looking, you troll looking little... Mike, get on my guy.
That's not offside.
I love it. I just love it, man. I don't know what to say about it. I know it's probably cringe for most people, and it probably makes you infuriated. It makes your skin crawl, and you don't really get why I'm playing that clip. But I just love it. I love seeing people get angry on the internet because I just can't bring myself to be that guy. I'm sure I'm gonna cut to myself, you know, ranting and raving at some stream, but I can't do it. There's people who cry online, like at will, right? They're like got their phone in their hand and they're on IG live and they're sort of like crying about something, being emotional. And then the ones that get angry like that and sort of rant and rave, they're really peculiar people. I really am trying to understand that kind of that mental psyche. It's super bizarre to me, man. I mean, never understand it, never will. But hey, next on list here we have. Let's talk about this. We have an update on the sub club. So you remember the other day I mentioned sub club of wrangling donations together in order to pay for sub club are raising money so that they wouldn't close, right? They're trying to raise some money to allow them to stay open until December when they hope things will get back to normal so they can resume their club reopening and whatever programming schedule. And I thought it was an important, thing to kind of highlight. Of course, Sub Club, I've never been there, but I've heard a lot of great stories about it being an institution in the Glasgow scene, it being one of, only a small number of nightclubs that we have in the UK that kind of attracts a worldwide audience, a worldwide DJ roster of artists that perform there. Just generally got a good reputation, legendary sets from Optimo and the like. So it's got a good, some good feelings, good sentiment towards it. And guessing by how quickly they raised donations over a period of, let's say, a week or whatever, it kind of felt as if, this is something good to kind of back. Then out of nowhere, Techno Twitter, right, came out of nowhere, out of the blue, and sort of raised up some very interesting amendments that need to be placed alongside this sub club raising up donations, and just questions that need to be sort of like answered in it as to what's actually really going on. And this is basically it. I kind of noticed it first from this Twitter account on Twitter that said the following. That said this. I said, if I was a director of sub club moaning about not being able to access the furlough scheme and appealing to public donations, I'll probably not film my interview with pics of me on the private jets or be one of the heirs to one of Scotland's biggest fortune, which is really weird, isn't it, right? So one of the people involved in sub club essentially is being accused of having exorbitant amounts of wealth that doesn't really allowed them the opportunity to sort of plead for the public to assist them, which is something that's been happening often. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm meaning to kind of research it myself, but if anyone knows why this is happening, please leave me a comment down below. It's been a common occurrence during COVID-19 coronavirus lockdown. There's been a few government initiatives such as the paycheck protection scheme or something. Everyone's got something, right? Every country has some sort of thing in place that companies can apply for. In the UK, we have a furlough system where companies can apply for a grant that allows them to cover up to, let's say, 80% of wages under a certain amount, blah blah blah, so that the companies don't need to let go of people for the interim, so that they can give themselves the opportunity to kind of see the for opportunity to kind of come out just from the other side and be able to kind of resume some sort of business and get money in that way. But there's also been a prevalence of really big corporations who have been applying for this government grants of protection when some people would argue their founders or the amount of wealth of cash that they've accumulated over the years should allow them to be put in a position where they can kind of fund it themselves, but they would rather take the money from the government and fund it themselves. So what I'm interested in is, why would a company apply for a pay protection scheme or for a furlough, knowing the amount of public backlash they're going to get? Like, especially with everybody being an activist or a social justice warrior nowadays, with everybody being in lockdown and being on their phones, people are very much in tune with what's happening in society, right? People are trying to kind of put their best foot forward. They're trying to contribute. They're really game to sort of like take down big corporations. Why would you put yourself in that crosshair? Why wouldn't you just sort of like, back away from the furlough system, back away from the furlough scheme? I think even Liverpool did one of the, a club that sort of won the Premier League here in the UK, applied for the furlough scheme, and then they kind of, essentially backtracked from it. Liverpool, Tottenham did the same thing as well. But I'm just wondering, why would the company put themselves through that? Like, or are you just hoping you kind of like slip through the cracks? Anyway, so that's happened. Some club have obviously got a wealthy benefactor, a wealthy supporter or patron. So it would kind of make you think, if that was the case, they need to raise money. Why couldn't they just, especially because the amount was, I don't think it's right to judge, people's donations and stuff, but the amount was only 90,000 that some couple were asking for, right? In order to kind of allow them to sort of see themselves out until December. So you would imagine some of their board of directors or their investors could be able to kind of pull that money together and keep the club afloat, instead of kind of asking the public, most of which are, out of work or have diminishing finances, to dip into their pockets to support the club. It's a bit fishy, isn't it? It continues. This is the next tweet in the thread. It says, yesterday partying in Berlin with Peggy Gou and John Paulson, having flown down a private jet. Today, please support our crowdfunder for the music. Cushy is the director of Sub Club, Trespass clothing firm. His family net worth is 90 million. Sunday Times Rich List 2017. And obviously the optics are horrible. This kind of reminds me of, when you like calling sick for work and then you forget and you post something on Instagram stories, or you post like something about you going out or whatever, right? It's just that common thing that right? If you're going to call in sick after having a bit of a heavy one the previous night, the best thing to do is sort of like keep yourself on social media. And I imagine if you're somebody that's of some sort of high net worth and you're involved in some kind of public plea for donations, it's probably a good idea not to boast about you taking a private jet to go visit your good friend Peggy Gou in Berlin. And isn't it just funny as well that with all these issues that happen in techno, Peggy Gou always seems to sort of like rear her head. She always seems to be involved. She's always the mention of it, and I guess maybe it's because she's one of the more successful ones in techno, right? She's essentially had a very expedient sort of success, depending on how you look at her career. Some people would argue, she this is where she should be. Some people would argue she got there too quickly. Wherever it may be, whenever anything happens concerning money, concerning privilege, whatever it may be, she seems to always be involved in the conversation. But part of me thinks she doesn't get this. It must be difficult for people online that criticize a lot of the people in techno, rightly, who kind of are a bit, suspect in how they go on, because she's a woman, right? A young female at that. Not self-made entirely, but for the most part, she's had to kind of, navigate the scene without having many cosigns, right? I'd assume, right? Except for her being, I don't know, would you say that she has a cosign? Does that how it work? Because usually in DJing, there's always somebody that sort of like brings you in under their wing, right? You kind of get mentored, but I can't really remember who Peggy Gou was associated with as a mentor. She kind of just came in as a sort of fashion influencer kind of girl and sort of like pivoted into the actual dance music scene. I don't know, maybe that's the way I'm looking at bad optics. But regardless, it must be really difficult for people that criticize DJs on Twitter to sort of level the same amount of criticism at Peggy Gou, because she's a woman, and there's not many women in techno or in dance music in general, or in DJing world in general, of that level of success. So you're not really trying to be that person kind of hating on her because there's not many of those people around. You want her to be an example. But then she's so, as with most industries, right, the people at the top, there is the amount of opportunities and access that they have is so disproportionate to everybody else. It just pales in comparison. So she gets so many chances and opportunities to add to her, you know, incredible levels of finances, incredible levels of success, that you can't help but think that people that are looking from the outside in, who are critical of DJs, are like, God damn it, man, like, can't we get a chance to do something? You know what I mean? But it must be difficult because you can't really criticize her, because optically, you know, she's a woman, she's an Asian lady at that, so she's a minority, she ticks those boxes, and for the most part, she does come across rather safe. Now, again, I don't know the woman, never spoken to her a day in my life, don't know anything else about her apart from a couple of interviews I read online, but she seems pretty cool. She tends to keep her nose out of trouble. She generally means well by the stuff that she does, and she can't help it that she happens to be one of the people that, you know, it's happened to Seth Troxler. You get ordained as the one, and then everyone sort of like hyper scrutinizes you, but it's not your fault. You didn't ask to be ordained as the one. The scene just chooses people sometimes. Sometimes there's, you know, there's some skullduggery involved, but it is what it is. You just got to ride that wave when you can ride it, and when it's over for you, right? So yeah, it's just interesting that she always seems to be in the picture when this stuff's happening. Like people are essentially sacrificing the future of their nightclub, right, in terms of reputation, to take a private jet to go and visit her in Berlin. Like, she has some clout, right? She has some bloody pull. People are like really desperate to be. And again, I can't remember a DJ in the scene who had this level of, who was this divisive, right? Like, the people that love her hard, isn't it? They have that kind of like, was it Peggy fucking Gou t-shirts, and they're all coming to the concerts with like inflatable animals and stuff, and blowing her kisses and giving her, she's selling merch. Like, she has a really rabid fan base, right? And even interesting more so, she has a lot of Korean fans, because sometimes, you know, people sometimes like herself, I'd imagine people from immigrant families usually have to find success outside their country before they get recognized inside their country, but she seems to have a very kind of loyal fan base in Korea too, which is a great win for her. But then her detractors, the people that don't like her, like, they hate her guts. That's so interesting, isn't it, to see? And again, I'm not really sure I've seen a character such as her in techno or in dance music for a while. You can maybe say someone like I don't know, like a David Guetta, but he's not really now seen in it, and you know, again, people don't really give a shit, right? If you don't really like his music, he just carries on doing what he does. But I can't really think of anyone else in the scene that's that divisive. Interesting, isn't it? And look at this guy. He's going all the way to flipping Berlin to go to her birthday on a private jet, if that. And then the next tweet is him saying, "Our beloved sub club is in real danger, closing down. 33 years of changing lives for the music, by the music. Please support if you can and share and raise awareness." It's just really odd. And again, I wonder what's happening there. Like, why would somebody that clearly has the funds to lift up his own club himself be clearly, because I guess in some respects, if he would have come out and said, "Hey, I'm supporting the nightclub, I'm keeping them afloat, but we're going to raise donations that's all going to go entirely to our staff, so we can make sure we cover our staff members, you know, from the door guy to the person at the cloakroom to the bartenders, barbacks, just support us so that we can support those people until the end of the year, right? I'm going to pay for the maintenance of the club, make sure the rent's covered, all that sort of stuff, right? The actual, you know, big bucks of an institution like that, I'd imagine, because it must cost a lot to keep a club like that running with no people inside it. That would be okay, innit? Would that be pretty fine? I'm guessing most people would want the rich persons to do everything, but if there was some kind of compromise where he could sort of cover the cost of the club and then ask for donations for the people that work there, that would be fine, because, you know, the understanding would be that, you know, if that is such an institution, people should have an affinity towards the people that work there and want to put some money in. But at the moment, man, like, it's such a weird thing to do, optically wise. Like, why would you do that? Especially considering how quickly the actual fundraiser got covered and all that sort of stuff. It just feels like a real big misstep. Like, they effed it up for no apparent reason. And again, it's just interesting to see that Peggy Gou seems to always be involved in these sort of issues. But yeah, that got said, and then I guess the guy sort of came back out and defended himself somewhat by saying the following. Get up on here for you to see. He responded the other day with a little statement on Twitter. Hopefully he hasn't deleted it. Yep, here it is, a little note. He said this is from the guy called how do you pronounce his name? Yusik Hushi or Yusik Kushi, I don't know how you pronounce it, but regardless, it says the following. A note, UCX, it says the following. I wanted to make a personal statement to clear a few things up today following the Subby crowdfund to stop anything taking the shine off what was an amazing effort that everyone at the club and all those who have generously donated so far. I took a minority stake in the sub club last year because it became available out of the need for support and funding, which I could provide at that time. Okay, all things are good there. He says, I never made a penny out of the sub club and never will. I'll only put money in. Great, sounds like a good guy. He continues, I don't have any day-to-day involvement other than as an unpaid advisor to Mike and Barry who run the club and are pulling together how do you say that? Herculean effort to ensure it comes out at the other end of the crisis. Cool, that's a perfectly good sentiment. He continues to say, it says, my work at Subby is purely out of the love for the Glasgow institution that deserves to be protected, and behind the scenes I do my best to help. With regards to the crowdfund, I donated personally as soon as it was launched and reached out to many of my contacts. Again, that's the issue, isn't it? I wonder why rich people that have that amount of wealth, why are rich people that greedy? That's an interesting question. I guess if you're rich, the only way to keep that kind of wealth is to kind of watch your P's and Q's. You can't be willy-nilly throwing money around in it like your Father Christmas. That's just not going to work. You have to have some level of selfishness to you. I guess I understood, but if you're in the scene, right, and you're about save our scene, and you're kind of talking about how important this club is to the local community, all this sort of garbage, you would want to maybe set an example, maybe restore the feeling, quote unquote, right? And maybe just supporting it out of your own pocket would be good, even if it means you sort of like being really yucky and putting yourself front and center and saying that you saved the sub club. That would, it probably would leave a bad taste in their mouth, but people would get it. But I wonder why he was so resistant again, because I remember the original goal for sub club was $90,000, right? £90,000, which again, no one's judging anyone's pockets. No one's, I'm not trying to calculate how much money he has, but if you're, assumed worth in your family is 90 mil and you're able to charter a plane to go to Berlin, even if it's not a private plane, it's a plane that you maybe hire for the day to go to Berlin to go visit your friend. I don't know, man. I don't know. The optics don't look great there, do they? It continues, with regards to the crowdfund, I donate personally as soon as it launched, and I reached out to many of my contacts from various walks of life to join me in donating if they could afford to do so. I also proudly support many of the other Glasgow clubs and venues independent promoters. So basically he's saying, hey, I donated what I could, I'm not going to give any more, plus I donate to other clubs around, which I don't talk about. If you want more money, suck my toe. That's basically what he's saying, isn't it? He continues, he says, I was a guest on a trip to Berlin last weekend where we traveled on a private plane, and I shared this image on Instagram. I don't own a plane and I didn't charter one personally, but it doesn't matter really, innit? But in hindsight, I can understand why these tweets are taken apart, why these posts taken together out of context has caused some confusion and are insensitive, which I regret. Not really. No one's really, I guess no one really cares if you go visit your friend in Berlin, right? People are just wondering why somebody that's worth an alleged £90 million family worth, regardless, right? But you have some kind of level of wealth to your name, why you would want to crowdfund a bar you're part of that's only asking for 19,000. We're not talking about bars asking for, imagine, because a lot of rich people might not have the ability to get £1,000 cash in their hands, right? Liquid, right? They might not have that liquid asset to kind of invest in anything. They might have things tied up in places, money coming in from rent, but they don't have that money in their account. That's understandable. But to say that he doesn't have 90,000 that he could sort of pour from his friends, or whatever it may be, or from the fund that he put together for the club, is a bit weird, isn't it? Very strange. It makes you wonder where the actual 90,000 is actually going to the club in the first place. And then it continues and says, and then the main priority right now is the sub club and the people that work in it and the people who love it. It is a special place, so many, and Mike and Barry's campaign has really highlighted just how important it is in Glasgow and ensure the music industry. I'm proud to have played a small part in it and will continue to help in any way I can. That's the issue, though, isn't it? Really, you shouldn't. I guess if he wasn't associated with the nightclub, no one would care. He's actually causing more harm than good. So it probably would have been beneficial from at the end just to be like, hey, I understand what's going on. I'm not in a position to help out in any more in that way, and I understand my presence is probably doing more damage than good. I'm gonna bow out, because it seemed like people had a lot of good feelings towards Sub Club without even, because I didn't know this guy even existed, right? So people had a lot of good feelings about the club and when to support it. So it probably is beneficial for him just to step aside and sort of allow him to do it, because obviously he doesn't want to put any more money in, because maybe he can sit there and say, hey, I put in more than 100,000 in just over a year, right? Which is a lot already, right? So I don't want to put in more money, especially with the climate changing, and he doesn't know what the thing will be, what the world's going to be like when everything does reopen later in the year. I understand it's your money, do your thing, but it is taking a little bit away of the shine of what's going on, the kind of organic sort of crowdfunding initiative that happened with the Kickstarter, with the crowdfunding initiative or campaign that's put together. And again, it's just disappointing in that regard, like disappointing somebody of his stature wouldn't want to put in any more money, and why they'd kind of try and explain it. It's also funny that Peggy Gou is also involved, right? Just weirdly enough, she's just associated with this. It's just bizarre, isn't it? Like she ends anything concerning money, anything concerning money in the scene, she ends up to always be entangled in it some way or the other, and she always seems to come out of it the other side as well, really spotless. But bloody hell, man, raw funny situation. But hope it gets sorted out sooner rather than later for all the people involved. What nothing to talk about. I think that might be it for now, isn't it? Bad taste. There was nothing to talk about. I thought it was good. Let's talk about it. This is funny. So, as you guys are aware, Bryan Callen and Brendan Schaub from the Fire and the Kid are still suffering the consequences of the coronavirus, mostly due to their own fault. They spent most of the time prior to going out on tour. That's a timeline, right? Rough timeline. COVID hits, it shuts everything down. These two guys complain about it all day long on any platform that they get, that the LA mayor or the LA governor is being too scary cat about the whole issue. He's taking it too seriously. It's not that big of an issue. It's just like the common cold. The death rate is this. Look at the stats. Blah blah blah. Just really kind of spitting in the face of anyone that's a bit worried or a little bit hesitant about reopening the economy, just in case hundreds of thousands or millions of people die. But hey, whatever. You have to go on stage and perform a little stand-up show. So I guess that's the most important thing. So they were poo-pooing it for a while, and it seemed like they were going to be proved right for a certain period of time, right? It seemed that the US wasn't really suffering as much as everywhere else in the world, and numbers weren't really spiking. They were talking about a wave happening after we've seen kids going out for their spring break. Nothing seemed to be happening, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it just starts to spike up. And in all fairness to those guys, it was bad timing. Just when they were planning on going on tour, when it was deemed to be safe in Texas, and Joe Rogan was contemplating about moving to Texas himself, it starts to spike, right? I think Bryan Callen even mentioned they got like an Amber Alert whilst they were out there, right? Concerning the level of cases that was spiking over a week or 24-hour period of time. And then they come back with Corona, with COVID-19. And for the most part, Bryan Callen's been quite humble about it. He's kind of taken it on the chin, and it sort of humbled him a bit, brought him down a couple of notches. And he's like, hey, I should have taken it more seriously. It's really knocked me for 6. And again, considering his age, it would make complete sense. But Brendan Schaub just seems to be, hell-bent on just refusing to admit that he's wrong. So much so that it seems like he hasn't even mentioned the fact that Khabib Nurmagomedov's dad unfortunately passed away from COVID-19. That I want to bring that up in case that kind of, spurns another story about COVID. But it's just funny to see how really poorly they've handled it. Most so Brendan Schaub. Bryan Callen's handled it pretty well. He's been pretty cool about it, and he's been like, hey, I didn't take this thing seriously. I should have taken it more seriously, and now look what it's done to me. And I thought this video was a really good encapsulation of the events that's happened that transpired so far. Let me see if I can find it. This is kind of the Brendan Schaub version of kind of rewriting history. He's now going around telling, I think, the last episode he ended it by saying, if only he knew this virus would have him be away from his family for more than 2 weeks, he wouldn't have gone on tour and performed. It's just like, what? It's, what it's similar to? It's kind of similar to, when you're on an airplane. Yeah, it's so similar. You're on an airplane listening to something on your laptop, before a plane leaves, right? Before you start boarding, before you start taking off, and then the stewardess comes down the line and she's like, "Hey, turn it off," and you're all surprised, right? That's like that. It's like, you know what the deal is. You know you've only got a certain amount of time before people, have to like put their things under their chair and things get taken off and a green light comes on before you can use your phone. You're just using that time in the beginning just to kind of get some stuff out of the way. But you know what the deal is. It's not a surprise that suddenly let's use your laptop as the plane is taking off from the ground. So for him to kind of turn around and say, "Oh, if only I knew things would be this serious, I wouldn't have gone," it's like, come on, buddy, you knew, we all knew, innit? So this is the video of him kind of confessing this. It's so funny.
He's being a real bitch about this COVID stuff. We're just going to bunker down, and I think the Comedy Store is going to be close to 2022.
And this is, of course, Brandon Schaub in the beginning, right? This is him in the beginning.
And we're not going to be on the road anymore. What? This scared you? Oh, this ain't shit, Bubba.
Well, I got corona after day 3. I'm almost back to 100%. Again, that other sentence is the really annoying bit, that I'm almost back to 100%. No one cares. You're irresponsible. You got it. Just take in the chin like a man and keep it moving. This I'll be back after 3 days. It's like, so? It's still affecting people. People are still dying. It's not like a big, and then the issue is more so like, you get it and you unintentionally spread it to other people who are more at risk than you. People that don't have the access to IVs and to private doctors and, medical professionals, a stone's throw away from you. It's just, God almighty, these guys, man. And I was such a big fan as well. It's just disappointing when people that you look up to or you enjoy their content. I guess it's okay when they make mistakes. I don't really care, innit? Because I'll treat them like a friend. If they make a mistake, I don't care. I'm gonna ride with you. But it's just when it's just done in such a careless manner, right? It's just, you could have. This situation is so easy to be. It's so easy to be on the right side of history, or it's so easy to do the right thing. When you do the wrong thing, it's sort of like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay in the head? Like, you should have to give somebody a head, or like, what's your problem? Fast forward to now, July 7th.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have told me that I'd have to be away from my family for 2 weeks because of this, I wouldn't have done any of those shows.
Jesus
if you believe you've come into
Christ.
contact with
March
the
13th.
coronavirus, the CDC recommends that you self-quarantine for at least 2 weeks.
March 13th. This is everywhere, right? Everyone knows this. And of course, the 2 weeks just so you don't pass on to anybody else. There's no guaranteeing in that 2 weeks you're just going to quickly recover and you'll be completely fine. But most case scenario, in most cases, the majority of people under a certain age, you recover pretty well. All well and good. But you have to take it seriously somewhat in order for it to kind of go away in that manner. You can't just be haphazard about it. You can't be just going around thinking, if I catch it, I catch it, because there's no guarantee you're going to respond to it well. And there's also no guarantee that you're not going to spread it to anybody else unbeknownst to you.
I'm being told to isolate for 14 days.
Also, the idea about self-isolating.
March 24th from Fauci.
If you would have told me that I'd have to be away from my family for 2 weeks because of this.
Big up the homeless cats, and he honestly, Brent, that's a thing I think is interesting about social media and success and stuff in the age of the internet. It must be both inspiring for some people and also very frustrating for some people. It's inspiring because you look at it and you're like, if Brendan Schaub can be a success after, being a professional MMA fighter where he's getting his head pounded in, right? He must have some level of mild CTE, right? He's in a sport essentially, which is, every time he steps into a ring, his mental capacity diminishes somewhat after every single fight. If he can become a success in the field of podcasting, merch, stand-up, it must give regular guys like me and you hope, innit? Like, okay, cool. If we persist in what we're doing, we work hard and we've got better talent and we hustle and we network, we can make it too. But for some people who have a bit of a warped sense of viewing things, they must look at it and be like, I might as well just shoot myself in the face. I might as well jump out of a window. Because if he's successful and he's the pinnacle and I'm having to battle against him and you say to yourself, oh, I'm 10 times as more talented as he is, or I work just as hard, but I don't have a friend like Joe Rogan, you're going to be like, there's no point of me even starting because he's too far ahead. He's got a car. He's got lovely kids. He buys crazy colored trainers. It must be so weird, isn't it? If you're watching it and you're actually, because again, I don't mind the dude. I think he's pretty entertaining, but it's just, he makes it so easy for people to hate him. That's a problem. Even as a fan of his, he makes it so easy for people not to like the guy because he's so ignorant. Like most people that are like on social media, he's so loud and wrong. He loves it. He loves just like hearing the sound of his own voice say the most nutty things. And then when he gets pulled up on it, he acts as if like it's no big deal. And it's like, no, mate. You're going on as if this virus was some common cold. You get it. You have to send your family to live in another home, so you have to be alone for a long period of time. If you know anything about Brendan, you know he doesn't really do well on his own, right? And now you're saying if I would have known, like, guess what? Like, come on, my G. And then I think the last one is this from Bryan Callen. He's given a bit of an update, and he looks at absolute death, right? So bless Bryan in this whole escapade. If anyone deserves a bit of sympathy with what's going on with COVID-19, it's Bryan Callen, because he looks at absolute pure dog shit. He's on some podcast show on Instagram Live the other day talking about it.
From what I've heard, that's good, but I wasn't as.
But look how bad he looks. His eyes are drooped, and again, maybe it's because of his, post eyelid surgery. But his eyes look really hollowed in. He looks like he's lost a bunch of weight. He's got that kind of sickly look on his skin color. It's just, he looks terrible. And again, maybe it's just an age thing, but god damn it, man. God damn it, Bryan Callen.
Responsible as I could be.
Well, you put out a PSA, which I thought was very responsible, telling your fans if you fist bumped me,
yep,
or if I fingered you, something like.
Yeah.
No, well,
they can't laugh at that too much considering what's happening with Crystalia. Hey.
Really? Yeah. Well, too little, too late. Too little, too late, though.
Right.
The problem is I've been such a vocal critic of the shutdown. I'm sort of looking at the stats and saying that it's not so deadly.
That's a telltale sign someone's chatting shit in it when they have to look away or scratch those eyes or whatever. And that's a telltale sign, I guess, isn't it, right?
The problem is it's disruptive. When you get it, you're on your back. Look, I'm pretty healthy, man, and it's 7 days, and I don't feel like doing anything.
Wow.
And that's a good point. If you've seen what Bryan kind of looks like without a t-shirt, he's in shape, dude. He keeps himself in tip-top condition. He's always boxing and working out in the gym, and he's a bit annoying with it, but he works out a lot. He's in quite good shape. He eats well, and he's blessed with good genetics in terms of not gaining weight too easily. And look how out of sorts he looks with COVID-19.
People fall off a cliff after day 7 with men for whatever reason. Men can have like a bad turn at like a week. So, but for the most part, we know if you're under 74 without coexisting morbidities, you're going to be okay eventually. The problem is, you're still exposing other people, and that's the part that I wasn't very responsible for.
Duh.
How many were in the crowd on those nights that you were playing?
Over 300.
Wow. By the way,
including the night we got an Amber Alert on our phone. As I was driving to the club, I got essentially what looked like an Amber Alert, which was to say that in this county, cases have spiked immeasurably, and so 90 people canceled.
And that's a problem, right? So the Amber Alert, no one's telling you to go back home, right? You're already there. And again, I think people have to be fair with these comedians, because I think, like with everything, even like with, this whole bars reopening and people going crazy, this is part of their identity, right? They know nothing else than going out on the stage and making people laugh their heads off, right? This is who they are, going out at nighttime and conversing with their fellow comedians. Most stand-up comics say part of the fun of doing stand-up isn't just being able to be on stage, but it's also being able to kind of, shoot the shit with your peers. So for that thing to get completely taken away from you, from a virus that, for the most part isn't like some sort of airborne virus that turns you into a zombie, it's sort of really sneaky in that aspect, right? It doesn't really have any sort of external manifestations, right? You don't really pass on people's skin. I don't know, those things really add, I think, to the severity, of it. Because of that, people probably just weren't taking it too seriously. So when it goes about decimating your entire career aspirations, you're within your rights to feel a bit aggrieved, right? To be like, no, I'm going to try my best to fight this. I get it. But to fight it, wouldn't be the best to try and fight it responsibly. That's all I'm saying. Just fight it responsibly. So if you did go out and you had an Amber Alert, no one's saying you to go back home, but especially if you said 90 people cancelled right off the back from the Amber Alert, wouldn't you try to, I don't know, wear a mask, maintain social distancing, just kind of increase your overall awareness because you've been given a sort of amber alert, you don't want to take any chances. But no, there was loads of pictures coming out of them after their appearance at San Antonio with fans hugging them, taking pictures, signing stuff. Like, God almighty, they took no precautions, none, zero. And that's the weird thing about it. So it's like, from the beginning, I've always been quite understanding of people who have been kind of anti-lockdown. I can get it, especially if you've got a career involved in the arts or involved in having people gather in large arenas, especially, you know, a lot of these governments look like they have a plan in place when it comes to locking things down, but they don't really know how to get the economy restarted again. They don't know how to support them or give them any sort of funding. So I can understand this, and most of these people, especially if you're not at the top, you live check to check, I get it. But I think if you're going to fight against it, if you're going to be anti-lockdown, you have to just accept all the responsibility. You have to put stuff into place that allows your fans to be safe in the knowledge that they're attending an event that people have taken all the necessary steps to make sure they're going to be safe. You owe it to them, at least, not to yourself. You owe it to them, the fans, because those fans that would risk it all to go to see Bryan Callen and Brendan Schaub, they're a particular kind of people, right? Those are real fans. The ones that would break quarantine, the ones that, not break quarantine, the ones that would leave their homes after how many months they spent in their homes to go and see Brendan Schaub and Bryan Callen, who, you know, not to be rude, they're not Dave Chappelle, right? To see that level of comedian, you're definitely committed. So you owe it to those fans just to be more responsible. But no, they just went there haphazardly, did whatever, carried on like nothing was going on, and then look what happened.
But I got a show, and the problem is I'm on stage, I'm doing a show, like we all were, and when you come off stage, the only way to the green room is through a crowd of people screaming and shouting and standing up. So what happens is you walk into a COVID cloud.
It's no real excuse for
Again, I take full responsibility for that.
The droplets, the aerosols.
I'm not waiting for a vaccine. I'm not doing it.
But you got no option though, innit, really? You're not waiting for a vaccine. You've got no real option. And neither does this. That's the problem. Neither do the attendees. Because I think that's going to be the issue. I think most performers, even like myself, right, being a mid to entry level DJ, I'm not worried about. I would go out and perform in a bar now, tomorrow, if somebody asks me. I don't really mind to, right? I'll take necessary precautions, necessary steps. But the issue that I'll have is making sure people are able to attend. Who would want to come and see me perform in the bar somewhere with the possibility and the potential of getting COVID? Who'd do that? Who'd put themselves at that kind of risk? You wouldn't do it. It makes no sense. So it's just, that's the issue that these guys have. It's not, your will to go out doesn't necessarily have any really say in everyone else's desire to go outside and put themselves in danger. Doesn't really have any say in it at all, unless you kind of prescribe to do something like, you know, what Bert's doing with the sort of like drive-in comedy tours. But and that requires a whole nother level of execution and, you know, planning ahead of time. But yeah, just an unfortunate turn of events. Again, I hope they get better, but God damn it, man, that podcast has completely fallen off a cliff off the back of COVID. And again, it's such a weird hill to die on. I guess that's the issue I have with it. Like, sort of like what's happening with Terry Crews, isn't it? You know, he's not saying anything bad, but it's like, for an actor of his stature to wade in with these whole social justice issues and to kind of ostracize yourself from the black community based on probably some missed quotes and some missteps here and there. I generally agree with his overall sentiment, but is that really the hill you want to die on? Really? That's the one? It's like, so imagine T-Fat K, that's the hill they want to die on, the COVID hill. It's like, come on, guys. But hey, what do I know? Anyway, that's Agostinho Zinga Show episode number 338. Thanks again for tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you guys with me as part of my company, it's been a pleasure to have you. It's been a pleasure to have your company. That's what I meant to say. If it's your first time listening via the YouTube show, please make sure you like and subscribe and leave me a comment down below. If you're listening via the podcast app, of course, leave me a 5-star review and share it with your friends. I'm going to be posting up some exclusive content on Patreon, so make sure you follow me on Patreon. If you want to support on there too, feel free to do so, but you're under no obligation to do that. But make sure you click down below and support me on Patreon, patreon.com/Agostinho, AGOSTINHO, patreon.com/AGOSTINHO, and I'll be posting some exclusive content on there. I'll be doing some more Pacific streetwear stuff, news, some live streams will be going up in there, a few other bits and bobs, so make sure you keep an eye on there. And of course, the audio version of the podcast will be uploaded on there sooner than it is uploaded onto YouTube. And again, thanks so much for tuning in. The Agostinho Zinga Show number 338. Thanks again. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care. Be safe. Bye.